This video is going to show you a solo Grandmaster Nightfall for the first weekly featured Nightfall this season, which is inside Terminus. So this, I've already done a minus 40 power edition, right, of this, which I haven't done this one, which is just your standard minus 25, your general Grandmaster. I have noticed quite a few differences in how much you can sort of resist, what you can get away with, your damage, stuff like this. So yeah, this is just more of a conventional run. This is for people who are generally just higher in power, which I would honestly say most people are at the cap for GMs as opposed to not, because this change of them lowering the cap to 1580 was only announced recently. If they told us at the start of the season, then people wouldn't have bothered leveling up as much as they did. So this is more of a functional setup. It's more for somebody who can emulate, copy, put all the fragments on the aspects, the weapon loadout, and then get a solo done on this. So you notice there I skipped the initial champions. There's 2 barriers, there's an overload, I believe, or they might be no, they're Vex Minotaurs, I think. But anyways, you skip that initial batch of champions. How you do that is by going as quickly as you can, spiraling through that mini cave. It's not really that tight to do, but the game will still give you platinum rank. You will definitely still get platinum rank if you stop the champions from spawning. If they spawn, you must kill them, or reset your run and try and get past them before they spawn again. Your goal right now is to take down this barrier. I'm gonna skip because to be honest, a minus 25 GM with 100, if you've got 100 resilience, you can definitely skip, providing that you know what you're doing. And use your blinding aids if you must. But all the ads, if you notice, were at the bottom area, right? So once that barrier is taken out, you have license to skip all those ads. But you need to have the ads positioned right for you, right? And you do that by hiding for a little bit, like I did, and then just make a run for it. It's not too difficult to get past them, honestly. Or you can kill them if you want. It really isn't going to matter either way. You're going to get more ammo drops if you do. So there's always that. So for the first plate that we cap, not too difficult to get. Utilize your grenade. Obviously we're on Warlock, Voidwalker. Start with a grenade and then get a healing with Dam. I've got Child of the Old Gods on, right, the aspect. So I went Child of the Old Gods Chaos Accelerant because I'm using Contraverse, you know. But I didn't use Devour, notice. I don't think you need Devour these days. How powerful we are. Devour is going to help you play more aggressive. It's going to help that sort of stuff. So I'm a lover of Devour. You know, I've used it for years and years and years. But I really think Child of the Old Gods in this is very good because it's offering you a lot of debuffs. I know that there's weak and clear in the game, right? I know that. I'm aware of it. But this build doesn't, you don't need to use weak and clear when you've got this build on. And we're not using Witherhoard. We're using the exotic pulse rifle, Outbreak Perfected. Which, the reason why, because it's barrier pulse, of course. Now, before this run, honestly, I ran and got the catalyst last night for Revision 0. I put on all the perks, 4 times the charm, vorpal weapon, all that stuff. I tested it at minus 40 power in this GM. And at minus 25 power, and the gun is bad. I don't know what it is, it's bad in GMs. It's not what it was cracked up to be. It's probably going to be a good backup DPS option in raids day 1 and stuff, because it's got the sniper bullets and it works with 4 times the charm. But for solo play, there are better options. Wishender is a far better weapon than Revision 0, in my books, for solo play. For solo play it is. And Outbreak Perfected is top notch. It's literally the best pulse rifle in the game in my books, right? Just because of what it can do. The Vow of the Disciple one's good as well, but it's quite funky, quite build specific. Outbreak Perfected isn't build specific because there is no nanite builds per se. It's just specific to this gun, but it works on anything that you do on any class. So you're going to see how good it is at melting shields, and the more nanites you have, you're melting them in like 1 burst sometimes. And I tried Revision 0. Revision 0 sometimes would take an entire mag to take down a shield. Because let's face it, you haven't always got those sniper bullets available to you. And here's another bad thing. Revision 0, the sniper bullets won't even one-shot a shield unless it's a crit. It won't one-shot body shot. That's down. Because it's down as a sniper, you see, and snipers have that same thing. You got to get your crit behind that shield. And sometimes you ain't getting your crits because of the Vex Goblins. They hide their crit, they crouch. Depends what you're up against. Cabal champions, not as bad, but yeah. So this is what gave me the idea. Well, I'll go Outbreak Perfected because it's totally different. And also another top tip is put on full auto settings. Or it's a new setting was added recently. Put that on, you've got your full auto Outbreak. Full auto Outbreak is insane. Honestly, it really is. Even at range, because obviously pulse rifles, they start to suffer a bit of range drop off. They're not like a scout. But look at this range here. So we're waiting for this barrier to pop down these stairs. These stepping stones, should we say. He is debuffed, but look at how good that's melting. I don't even need to switch. I don't even need to switch to my heavy or something like that. I could have used a linear fusion rifle. If you want to do that, you can. I prefer machine gun in the inside terminus just because of the way inside terminus works with cap and plates. I have got blind and nades on, so I could have just done it with the GL. Because when you blind the ads, you can keep blinding them over and over and do it like that. But I still stuck with the machine gun because I've got my crafted retrofit on. But it works out more of a support style weapon. I haven't got volatile round build on. They nerfed it. Volatile rounds is still really good on Hunter though. I tested it yesterday. It's still really good. It's got a lot of utility. It might not be a top DPS option, but it's still really good at what it does. On other classes, like I said to you, it's a Hunter Pacific gun is retrofit with volatile. But if you just want to use it because it's a machine gun, because it's got target lock, you're going to get a lot of utility out of it on any class. Don't worry too much about volatile rounds, only if you're on a Hunter with the Grafalcon. To be honest, that's what I would say. As I wanted decent stats because I'm using Echo of Undermining. Echo of Undermining, you lose 20 discipline. So I want to try to negate that and at least have tier 8 discipline minimum. Because it starts to hurt the build if you get into tier 7, tier 6 discipline stat. You know. So you've got to balance it. Because it would be a tier 10 discipline, but I'm losing 20 discipline because of Echo of Undermining. But I want it on because it's debuffing all the targets and stuff. I know I've got Child of the Old Gods, so I could technically take it off. But I ain't always having my rift up. That's just what I went with overall. And it worked. I come in here first time, got it done first go, no problem. So this is a repeatable setup. You could farm this if you want. Mindbender's Ambition is the weapon. Now this is a good angle here. It's a really good angle to take out the barrier. Just wait till, to the left side. And now we can just melt. Generally if you go to the stairs, you'll have those gladiators push you. The gladiators won't push you from here. So great, you can actually just deal with the barrier first. Look at the super energy as well. Pay attention to when I'm actually shooting a champ and when I'm hitting them with Outbreak. This is true for all sort of weapons like that where you're hitting a champ with a high rate of fire weapon. Not to say that Outbreak's a super high rate, but it's, decent. But you're getting plenty of super energy. Plus, it's an exotic primary. Now remember the benefits of running an exotic primary. It equals more heavy. It equals the 40% damage bonus on your ads and stuff. So it's generally better in a solo environment to use an exotic primary. Generally, an exotic heavy nowadays is putting your power level down a little bit in terms of your power. Not your power level itself, but you won't be as efficient with ammo and you're not going to be as good at taking ads. Unless the exotic heavy outweighs all that, like that it's that good, like pre-nerf Galahorn or stuff like that, where it is really, really beneficial. But generally speaking, having an exotic primary on is better, like Le Monarch, Osteo, the SMG, Outbreak, Wishender, stuff like that. It's generally actually just better to do that. And it's infinite ammo. That's another thing. So be careful when pushing. I haven't spoke too much about this room because, as I say, there's not really too much to talk about. Everything I wanted to say about it was said on the -40 edition, and I have covered inside Terminus tons and tons. Well, I've covered all the GMs tons. So it does get harder and harder for me to make these. Obviously, I'm using Nova Warp, right? Now it's going to seem a little funky, a little off. Am I doing the wrong thing? No, not really, because it's got a lot of utility. You can now survive in GMs, like the old style GMs, Nova Warp, you would get melted in it, you would die, right? Nowadays, with resilience and the fact that you've got that Roman, that resistance from Roman supers, you could survive and actually push bosses on GM and Nova Warp them and keep them in a stunned rate. Now I know we've got the classic Nova, the Cataclysm, right, which everyone uses. Every Warlock PvE main Voidwalker will put this on. They won't deviate, even though the old Nova's gotten buffed. Not the Tracken one, the other one. But you could switch up once in a while. It doesn't hurt you. And as I say, Nova Warp's really good for other utilities, and it's very good at capping plates. You've run out of machine gun ammo, no problem. You can still cap the plate. Right, so it's a backup line, and it still offers the damage. It doesn't offer that burst damage that Nova will, but why do you need to melt a champ? Your weapons will melt a champ. What it would do is speed up the boss fight a little bit, the Cataclysm, because you could keep farming supers, especially with the solar helmet mod, Ashes to Assets, and you could farm a lot of grenade kills, a lot of great energy, super the boss 3 or 4 times within that fight, and it would definitely speed it up that way. But there's some pros and cons to both. Like if you need ammo in mid, you haven't got shoot to loot on, which there is no shoot to loot frickin' GL, is there? So it's like, well, I can pop my super, do a bit of damage whilst picking up some ammo, because we know in this fight the Kargen's quite tanky, and the latter end of the fight you start to run out of ammo. No problem. Let's get a super. Pick up those ammo drops in mid. It's doing 2 things at once. Always come back when you get the barrier and the ads like this. Like it's tempting to go and pick up that orb. Be aware of all the spawns on the champions. I haven't spoken too much about spawns in this entire room that we've just done. If there's any specific questions, ask about it. But you should be just repeating what I've basically done. There are little tricks, which I maybe do another run later on. There's tricks to skipping some champs, to even more champs, and still get platinum rank. But I might save that for another video. See how we go. Because there is a little tricks. Whether it's still worth doing it, I'm not sure. That's for me to test and see if it's worth on a video, on a viable run. So now we can pick up orb. There's going to be extra barrier spawn in mid, so don't race to mid, because obviously you'll die by the Cabal boulder. And it's a case of now we're going to pop a rift behind this corner. When you find a champ like this, especially the Colossus, always find a piece of cover. Always think of it like PvP. Always have that backup to strafe in and out, because barriers melt. Especially these ones. These are the most threatening champ in the game. If they're like hitting you, like they will kill you faster than any other champ. It doesn't matter that they do solar. It doesn't matter. It's just the fact of how much damage they can put in. At -40, they absolutely melt you. At -25, they still melt, but it's more forgiving. That's what I've noticed, the difference between -25 as opposed to -40. -40, you can't get away with as much. At -25, you can get away with a lot more. And that filters down. When you get to Master, you can literally get away with tons, and then you go from there to Legend. So it's just a case of you can get away with more stuff. Look at that nade. Nade was perfect, but the timing, it bounced off the shield. So the timing on the nade wasn't great, but the distance was bob on, but just bounced off his shield. That's fine though. Outbreak's doing massive damage here from a huge range. That's a good meterage, and it's still just melting. I'm not going to use the machine gun from at that distance, because it's going to be ineffective. If you didn't know, when I showed you my craft video, this machine gun caps out at the 44 meters my roll. That was more than 44 meters, so I would have no benefit there using heavy. The machine gun, I'm using it in a specific way to fill a roll, and that's as a support heavy to cap plates. and do some additional damage on shields, any adds that are pushing me too hard for a bit of ad clear, a bit of this, bit of that. But this, as I say, it doesn't require you to run a linear fusion rifle. All that would do, if you did run a linear, is that it would speed up the boss fight. But cap and plates would be more difficult if you're not accustomed to capping the plate. If you're really accustomed to doing it, then you could just not do it. But I've got blinding grenades on, bear that in mind. So you can just literally rely on the blinding grenades to cap a plate. But it does get a little harder on depending on which plate you're capping as well, because they're all a little bit more difficult than each other. Some are more difficult than others, which I can obviously explain when we get to there. I'm just going to finish off these last adds here, these last Vex that spawn after this door, and then that's the entire run done. It's just the boss fight now. So the majority of this run, half of this run, is the boss fight. This heavy ammo was in the Vex pool. The Vex pool does huge damage to you, so just dip your toes in and out. I'm surprised that didn't do more damage to me. It literally only done 10%. But yeah, just make sure you fill up on ammo. You want good amount, a healthy amount of heavy and special as well. They're very important. They have the roles to fill when we get there. But yeah, make sure, because it'll just make it healthy. If you go on 0-0, no special, no heavy at the getting to the boss, then you've done something wrong. You've skipped. You've tried to speedrun it too quick. But don't forget, when you get to the boss, you're gonna lose time because you've got no ammo to cap a plate. Fail to cap a plate, you could be in this infinite loop of trying to kill adds and cap the plate. Because if you miss it the first time, you're in this loop of trying to find a sweet time to cap the plate, because obviously there's infinite waves of adds on this. These goblins melt. Don't like let them push you in that cave, because there's no cover there. So you need to just melt them, each one as they come around, which shouldn't be a problem with Outbreak. Outbreak's going to chew through adds in this. Another little tip is when you're jumping down here is shoot the Hydra and some of the Minotaurs. They may drop you heavy. They may drop you ammo. They'll also give you a score. Not that score matters, because we're at 180k. But yeah, they may drop you ammo. And they can drop you whenever you're farming prime engrams, like at the start of a new season and stuff. It's always good to sort of do that. So this is the first plate to cap. You've got two legendaries in front of you, dogs right and left, and some legendaries left. You want to pop a healing rift, get some blinding going in. If you must pop super, do it, but I didn't seem I needed to on that plate. The blinding nades was enough. Obviously, don't, like, even if you're full HP and you've got tons of legendaries pushing, just get that healing rift down, that's fine. Because you're going to get plenty of rifts anyways. I'm going to use the super, let's see the damage. Now look at this, pay attention to the boss. Look at what is the boss doing. He's staggered. He keeps stunning. And the time, and if you're not timed right with the Nova Warp, it won't do that. But, yeah, you can get him stunned. But you need to understand that as you approach that boss within 5 meter radius, the boss is going to attempt to stomp. If you can get a Nova Warp blast off before that stomp, it will stop the boss from stomping you, and then you can keep him stunned like that. That doesn't always happen, because there might be phalanxes that push you, and there's some adds. Like, you can still even pop your super when there's a bunch of adds in mid. Then you're doing lots of things at once. You're killing all the adds, you're doing good damage to the boss, you're managing the room. That's what you need to be doing, is managing the room effectively. Never taking too much of a risk. There's some risks that I am taking, like that there. If you saw, I actually stepped in the void. Bear in mind, I haven't even got void resist on. I've done that on purpose, just to see what it was like. Not that I stood in the void right there on purpose, but I did actually purposely not run void. Well, one reason is because I want strike and light on the chest plate, which is a good place to put strike and light because it's 5, so I get a resistance when I'm running around. I'll get charged with light when I break shield. There's shields at the boss. There's void shields. And I used high energy fire because when you stun a champ, I was getting the bonus to damage. I didn't use an elemental well build because elemental well builds, the power of an elemental well build goes down when you are in GMs. When it depends on what you're doing exactly. Like warden offing an elemental weld, if you can spawn a weld before a boss spawns in, that's great. You're gonna get that damage. But it isn't always applicable to use Font of Might, right? And I suspect they'll nerf it. Anyways, too strong. Stacks with everything. I don't like it when something gets too strong. I like being powerful, but everyone's spamming Font of Might. You say, yeah, it's getting old. Let's get it changed. But it sounds like they're changing it anyways. Charge of Light builds are changing, which I'm not too fond of from what I've read. I'll be withheld about it at the minute, my opinion, until I see it come in the game. But it doesn't sound like an improvement. There is some improvements to mods and artifact mods being permanently unlocked and all this stuff, and they apply to all your guns. Like Barrier Pulse always is on, but the Charge of Light thing that I read sounds like a little bit of a nerf with what they're doing. Right now, if you don't know, High Energy Fire is is kept on your character until you kill a target. So High Energy Fire historically has been a boss killing mod. I know Font of Mights are higher above, but Font of Might has a less of a time. I could have 60 seconds. Let's give you an example. Echo Kell. Echo Kell, the boss damage phase is like 50 seconds or so, more sometimes, up to a minute. I could have a minute's worth of High Energy Fire providing I keep my uptime, as opposed to Font of Might. I would have to re-proc it off the ads, and say I mess up and I kill the ad and not get my well or whatever. You'd lose Font of Might. So you went from you've gained a damage bonus to having no damage bonus at all. Whereas High Energy Fire, it sits there. There's no timer applied, but it sounds like that's changing. So going to the free plates. So when the boss gets to half HP, you need to filter through all the ads. Obviously, ads are based on boss's HP. So for every 5 to 7% HP, let's say you get a wave of Cabal. Try to not over damage the boss. What I mean by that is you need to be situated on a plate that you are going to cap as that boss goes immune. If you do not do this tip, you might not cap the first plate that you've chose. You can choose left, middle or right, of course. I recommend you do not choose middle, because middle being the easiest plate. What you need to understand is the first plate that you cap is easy. Bosses when immune, I'm slightly off position. I've lost a second. I've lost a second there, and you're going to see how tight this is. See, if I was a little better than what I was in terms of... I didn't realise the boss was going to go immune right there, but if I was close to the plate, I would have capped this easy. Watch how tight this is. So I'm capping the plate. All the ads, look at the ads, can barely see them. You can get blinds in, don't get me wrong, you can blind them. Right? But look, just cap the plate and they're starting to approach me. Obviously I could have got more blinds in, but what I realised is my ammo was really low. So that sort of put me off a little bit. But you can see there, if I'd been a second earlier, that plate would have been more comfortable. Seconds count in this. It's not just a second. In moment-to-moment gameplay like that, when you're solo capping a plate and there's 3 gladiators approaching you, legionaries and nades to your right, yeah, it's like, well, I might need to pop super. I was trying not to pop super, to be honest, but it would be my plan B. And I would absolutely pop it before. If I thought at any point I might die, like definitely die. If I would calculate that as it's actually happening. So if I'm like 75% HP, there's a nade to my right. It's 3 meters out of my distance, so it's gonna do a little bit of damage to me, but it ain't gonna kill me. Right, I might not pop. I'm about to cap my plate anyways. I can get out of this. Or it could be that nade's right next to me. I'm half HP. I know the exact amount that nade's gonna do to me. Yeah, and that's where the concussive dampener is going to help out. So you need to make these decisions live as the time's ticking down for you to cap the plate. That's literally how like some of the best players think. Not to say I'm one of the best players, but that's how they think. They're thinking so fast, faster than your average player. That's what makes them better. It's not the skill. It's not their how good they are at getting crits. Anyone can get crits in PvE, that's nothing to do with it. It's more this live decision making they're making on such a fast basis, whereas the slower players, they maybe have the skill, but they're not fast enough in their mind to make those split decisions, and that's the difference between a decent player and the best players. So notice we've rounded up the adds. This is what I like to call it. We're rounding up the adds over the right hand side because there's a little safe zone over that side. What you do is you leave them there and then you quickly loop round, you skate round as quickly as you can and cap the opposite side plate. It gives you more time. Now, I made a split decision there to pop super because I would have capped it without popping the super, but I saw the gladiators were coming, so I saw, right, well, I'll be able to get some splash damage in on the gladiators anyways, yeah, and cap the plate. I think it actually messed up the spawns though. I killed them too quick, and I think I get an extra spawn of gladiators. Because while doing the run, I was like, that's odd, I've got another spawn. So it just shows you, I've made a little bit of a mistake here, I think. I think I end up getting an extra wave, we'll see. We'll see. I think I do, yeah, because I'm on the last plate now, of course. So I'll kill my dogs. I killed the gladiators, and I'm going to get an extra spawn. And that's what I was saying about the infinite adds. Don't take out all the legendaries. He's the second wave, look. And so there's going to be dogs at the back of this as well. I get hit there. If you see how hard I got hit from the cleaver. My movement wasn't the best there, but just keep blinding. Use your machine gun. This is your time for your machine gun to shine, right? When you critical to get that gladiator killed and stuff like that. Just keep strafing though, left and right. It's this rotation, this cycle of the map of playing this backside and controlling the adds. Nade when possible, of course. Heal and rift when possible. Don't heal and rift as two gladiators approaching you, because by the time you've done the animation of the heal and rift, they could double melee you. So that's another thing. You always need to know the distance between you and the gladiators and how quickly they have. There's going to be another wave of dogs. But I'm farming up on ammo as well. I'm happy to use my machine gun ammo because I'm not going to be using it too much on boss damage. I will use it at times, but not really, so to speak. It's more of a support. I'm using it more of as a support style weapon. I've got 74 machine gun bullets, so I'm actively thinking right now, is that enough to cap this plate? Definitely. 50 or minimum. I've got some bricks here. 50 or less, not enough. You would start to then like worry, are you going to have enough? But obviously you could just keep blinding. So I'm going to round up the adds again at the little safe zone area over here. So let them round up. See, because the Cabal is such a slow enemy type, they'll do that jump, that hover jump thing when they jump to a next zone. While all that's going on, you're just getting your time on the zone. So we'll get a blinding as we step on plate. Then we'll pull out the machine gun, just melt all the adds now. There's some legionaries at the back of the map. We'll blind. There's a nade to my right. I've calculated that I'm out of the range of that nade already. Any other adds pushing, we'll make sure that you don't let them stand on the plate, because that will then cost you time. That costs us probably half a second, but enough to sort of get out of there. But you can see, if I was a second too late, that cleaver's on my plate. There's 5 or 6 legionaries behind him. Then I would have to retreat and try to recap the plate. Because what you need to realise, the progress you've made on the plate will be lost once you step off and have to run somewhere else. So you've got to really be alert on that cap in the. That's why I prefer the machine gun as opposed to linear. Linear would one-shot the adds, sure, but linear is more of like a, you know, it would save you time on the DPS part when the boss is out and stuff, but wouldn't save you time capping plates. The machine gun would be better than the linear for capping plates, which is why this is why I used this gun. So you're now the boss is returned. The boss is now enraged. So think of like raids when a boss gets enraged. Doesn't really happen nowadays, but the boss is more aggressive and stuff. Same thing. The AI of the boss has went up because the void streams are more often and there's more of them. There was only 3 streams, now there's 5. I think there's 5 streams. Right? There's more anyways, and harder to dodge. So you need to be in the air, hovering quite more often. The I like to play it like this when I'm cycling, but you can just literally stand behind a rock and just keep nading. When I'm doing DBS as well, sometimes I'll step on this block, but the void attack, the block that I've chose, sometimes the void attack can actually loop over this rock. So you could be standing in a rift thinking you're good, the void attack comes, and you die, because it'll kill you in less than a second. Try and get Child of the Old Gods on the boss when it's free moments to do that, when there's not many adds up. So I'm doing a bit of damage with Outbreak here. It's going to be decent for me, because it's going to stick those nanites. It's going to do good damage. But you can't always sit in a rift like that. And that's where, when the adds are out, you want to have this peekaboo playstyle of hide behind rock, quickly jump over rock, throw your grenade, then hide again behind the rock. See, what's just happened there is they've shot my grenade out of my hand. Now that's... A lot of people would say, well, that sometimes happens. Yeah, no, but it was my fault, that, actually. Because what I should have done is I should have been behind cover, then popped out for that split second. And they ain't going to shoot your grenade out so fast like that. But if I'm a sitting target in air, not a sitting target, but a moving target in air like that, sometimes it just happens. So I've actually slowed me down because I've got no grenade energy back. So I'm going to have to wait on the rift, which I've just got it now. But I'm picking up some ammo. I can keep getting blinds as well. Just be careful with this void stuff. As I say, you need to make sure that you're floating over that stuff and be landing. Always look down. Always look, where's that void stream? Because you could direct, if you're looking up or at the boss and then you land and you haven't looked that there's a void stream below you, you'll die. So you look at the void stream there. It's went over that rock. It'll never go right over it where I'm standing here, but it does do that. And if I was sitting in it, it'd be no good. I'm going to do an overwarp here because the boss is debuffed. He gets his stomp. I did stun him, but he stomped us as well. And he done it again. So sometimes it's hard to do this. There's a skill to it. It's not just, you know, aimless Cataclysm Nova where it's super easy. Even though sometimes that gets shots up. It gets shot out of the sky sometimes, Nova. But yeah, that Nova wasn't as successful as the other one. I should have popped it really when there was less adds, but my goal was to sort of see if I could clear some of the adds and still do some damage. But this is the peekaboo style of playing with the grenades. So you get that nade in, you're going to get that grenade energy back because the boss is sitting in that nade, and you're gonna play like this. This build that I'm using would be really good with the Witherhoard setup. So Witherhoard, and then a barrier weapon, pulse or bow. I've already covered this. Bow would be the better choice in my opinion, just because it's just a better weapon at dealing with adds, as opposed to like pulses. And a good nade in middle. There's phalanxes. Try not to sort of go in mid when there's phalanxes, because we all know they have this ability to 1KO you with their phalanx shield and physics you in a wall. So that can happen. Whereas if you get like hit by them in a super, or the boss hits you into a wall, if you're in your super, you will survive it. Generally you'll survive that. We've got our super back, so I'm going to use it again. He's done us there. Getting this ad. Let's see if we can get him in a stun raid. Which we didn't. We've basically run out of super now anyways. You can see how easy it is as well to just keep getting super. Like that's nearly a third super off one nade there. Nearly going up to a half. See that? Actually, this is crazy. Boss is literally weak. Don't be too greedy with damage. This build relies on you do damage behind cover. That's why Voidwalker's like literally one of the best classes in the game, if not top 3 best class in the game, despite what Arc Titan's like and Solar Warlock and Voidwalker to this day since Forsaken has been up there amongst the best because it's so safe and it's giving you so much damage as a solo player. The build isn't very good in teams because people's steal your kills, you lose nade energy. So this build is really all about on the solo. Its power goes down in team. Its power goes up when you solo with it. We've just about got our super, so we're going to actually see if we can finish the boss off. We'll get a couple of blinds in. There is a possibility I could still die, so I'm taking a slight risk, but not that much of a risk. But that was the solo Grandmaster, just a standard solo Grandmaster for this with Outbreak perfected and Nova Warp. Hope you enjoy, thank you.